Hello and welcome to a short video describing some of the changes that have been made in the newest edition of the MLA Handbook. Hopefully this will be helpful for students, teachers, and everyone in between. Now you may or may not know that in 2009 the 7th edition was released, which has some major changes from the old 6th edition. I'm not going to go over every single change, but I'm going to go over some of the biggest ones. One, you're supposed to list the medium for every single source that you put in your list of works cited. For instance, if you actually have a print book in front of you, you'll actually type the word print in the citation. If it's a web page, you'll type the word web. Same for if it's a CD or a DVD. They're just trying to make it the same across the board. So in the old version, I would have to look at these citations and say, okay, well, I see a publisher, so I guess the first one is a book, and the second one, well, I see a URL, so I guess that's a website. Now there's no guesswork at all. Instead, it's going to be exactly the same, or very similar to the same as the old book version, but I'm going to type the word print in there to say, look, I had a print book here in front of me. For the website, I'm going to include the word web. Second big thing is instead of underlining, we're always going to use italics. I love this change. I think it's really nice and clean. And the old one, they recommended that you underline. It had this whole kind of tense explanation about how it was easier on some printers to read underline, but if you really had to italicize, you could. So if you use italics, you were meant to felt kind of bad. At least I always felt bad, but I did it anyway. Now they say, okay, everyone's got printers. There's no more of this need for that silliness. Let's italicize all the time. I love it. The next new rule has to do with the volume and issue numbers of scholarly journals. Now, you know how some scholarly journals start every new issue with its own page numbers. If it's like a book, you open it up and you say, oh, well, it starts at page 1 and it goes on to whatever page it goes to. Well, some scholarly journals within the larger volume, each issue continues the numbering from the previous issue. So you get things, you know, like where it's issue 4 and you might be in the thousands of pages sometimes. Well, the old version of MLA used to expect you to know which kind of journal you were dealing with, and depending on if it was continuously paginated or not, you would sometimes put the issue number and sometimes you wouldn't. Sometimes you would just put the volume. And now they finally realized that this is just silliness. None of us have the time to go look up, go to the library and find old issues of the journal and try to see where exactly the page numbering is. So now you always put both the volume and the issue. There's that 25.3. It means this is volume 25, issue 3. Do it all the time. I secretly did it all the time anyway and just didn't tell anyone. No one ever knew. Fourth, no longer do you ever have to type the URL to a website. This is really good for the cleanliness of your works cited page. You might have these old ones where you type out these long, tortured kind of things, especially when you had something from that you got out of a database that you got through your library. Say you would have these long, massive, incredible URLs, and it's true that MLA said you didn't have to put that whole long, tortured URL in the citation, but you know what? People did it anyway. It was confusing inherently. Now, the assumption is that we live in a digital age where we have search engines. So, if I see a citation that says there's an article called "In a Word Production, Authentic Design," you know what? I can go to Google and I can find that. I don't need to actually have the URL. We've moved on. You know what I'm saying? This is very good for your works cited page. Fifth, and perhaps most complicatedly, let's talk a little bit about missing information in citations for websites. In the old version of MLA, you would be told, all right, this is the ideal order of information that you're going to have in a citation for a web page. So if you don't have something, just leave a big blank spot. Now, sometimes that would be a little confusing. For this one, for instance, there is no publisher or sponsor of the site listed. It's this lawyer's blog, so he doesn't have to say, yes, I'm sponsored by my university. It's not. It's his own blog. So the old rules would say, well, just leave a blank spot. So it would end up looking like this. Well, to me, that's instantly a little confusing. Suddenly we have two dates next to each other, and I'm left to think, well, wait a minute. One of those is the date it was published, and one was the date that I got it, but I think one is the other. It confused students, it confused everybody. Now, every time you take something out of a citation, for instance, if there's no publisher, if there's no page number, if there's no date, you actually put these little abbreviations in P, in page, in PAG, I don't know how to pronounce that, or in D to show, hey, I took something out and I'm going to put a little placeholder there in its place. Let's look at a couple examples. Say you have a work cited only on the web. This is what the new MLA, the 7th edition, says it's supposed to look like. By the way, just a little side note, I think it's really cool that they add this publisher, comma, date published. To me, that always connects the date that something was published to the publisher or the sponsor of the site. It's a very logical connection, with having that comma instead of the break everything period. And then you have the word web, usually, because it's from the website, and then the date accessed. Everything's a little more separated. It's a little easier to know what you're looking at. So an example of this, a works cited only on the web. Say I found a blog post called Thermodynamics in Space. It's on a blog called Interstellar Science, a blog. I made this up, by the way. And say that blog is hosted by NASA. NASA itself, say, is posting blogs. I don't know if they do or not. I should check that out. It was published on the 15th of January, 08 on the web, and I got it on August 11th, 09. Well, say I don't have quite all that information. Say, for instance, that it's a blog and it's not connected to any kind of publication, like the blog post we looked at a couple slides ago. Well, I'm going to actually type the letters in P. In other words, I'm not just going to leave it blank and kind of confuse people. There's going to be a placeholder. The opposite could be true. I might have the publication information, but I might not have the date. That's a little weird, and it might make me start to second guess the validity of the site. Like, why are you not putting the date of what you said? That's a clue towards badness. Sometimes you're going to find something that's published on the web that was originally published in print. Well, this is actually pretty easy. You just put the normal information that you would normally put in a citation as if you had the book in front of you. Then you put the site you got it from, the medium, probably web, and then the date you accessed it. For instance, say I find this poem online. It was originally published in the Collected Poems of Langston Hughes, a book that I do not have in front of me. I got this from a website. But if I were citing it from the book that was in front of me, I would have to actually put the page number. Right there after 1994, I would put 264 or whatever page it was on. Well, you know what? I don't know what page it's on because I got it on the web. In the past, this would have freaked me out. I would have gone to Google Books. I would have gone to Amazon trying to find an online copy of this book to figure out what stinking page number it was on. No more worries. Now I can just put a little placeholder in page. There was no page numbers listed. Then I put the place I got it, poets.org. I got it on the web. Got it on August 11th, 09. Sweet. Last example, say there's a scholarly journal that's published online only. These are increasingly common. You notice that the way to cite it in your works cited is exactly the same as the way you would publish, exactly the way that you would cite a scholarly journal that you had in front of you. Except the medium would be different, print or web. The only difference is that I'm going to add the date I accessed it to the end. So, say I've got this article, but I'm thinking, they don't paginate. In other words, it's online. It's all formatted as HTML, so there's no pages. Well, I can't just leave it off. I'm still going to put in page to show, hey, they didn't give page numbers. Sometimes you might have the opposite. Maybe you have a journal that is published online only, but they format it all in PDF, say, where when it gets printed, everyone gets the exact same page numbers. Well, then you can put the page numbers of this article that you got out of that journal, even though it was online. In that case, I would put the numbers, but not in this case. Good luck, everyone. I know I threw a lot at you, but there are a lot of great resources out there to help you out. Just try a search for MLA 7th edition if you can't figure it out. All right, good luck. Bye.